Hey everybody, and welcome back for another video. Today's podcast, we are talking about The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 3. I think it was called the Heiress, was the title of the episode.
Heiress.
Heiress? English minor. Um, um, but yeah, so we have our guest here today. We have Tony. We are talking about the episode. And Tony, what were some of your initial thoughts going in this episode? What were some expectations?
As far as expectations go, I expected a similar quality to the season and really the show thus far. I've really been enjoying this season so far. I've enjoyed every episode, including this one. So I was expecting a similar quality. The one thing I really like about this show and this season in particular is it's doing a very good job of balancing all of its elements that it has going on. It balances drama with action, with sci-fi, with its Western motifs because the show is a Western. So I was looking forward to continued quality, and because the internet is the internet, I knew that pro wrestler Sasha Banks was going to be in this. I'm a fan of pro wrestling. I've been following it for a long time. So I knew she was in it. I didn't know what role she played. I saw images that were similar to what she looked like in the trailer. So I knew she was in it, so I was looking forward to her role in it. But yeah, I think those were pretty much my thoughts going in.
Nice. What about you, Sarah?
So episode 1 for season 2 was really good, super action packed. The second episode was a little bit shorter, so it seemed to not really go anywhere for me. So I was kind of hoping in this episode we'd get somewhere and we'd see something. So we've got some buttons to close up from season 1 with like the Darksaber. And the mysterious character that we had seen when he was riding away on the speeder bike. And so there's just a couple things that were hanging out there, and I didn't know really if we'd get to see them in this episode or when we'd get to see them. So I was kind of hoping to get to see some of those things going into this episode. So
Nice. My thoughts are kind of similar. Coming off of episode 2, as we had talked about in previous podcasts, I felt like it was a little bit less than episode 1, but it was to the point where, kind of like what you were saying, I was hoping for some of these things to get going, but it kind of makes me believe that they like to marinate this show. They like to very slow pace things. So I was hoping that this one would contribute to a lot of the story and it wouldn't be a throwaway episode, because I kind of thought episode 2 was a little bit of that, where we have to go somewhere, we might run into trouble and then they happen to run. This episode, it was a little more straight to the point, and we got a lot of cool things in this one. I really enjoyed it. So those were kind of my initial thoughts. Hopes that it would be a little more story driven, and I think we got a little more of that. So kind of talking about the episode, it did start out with Mando and Frog Lady and Baby Yoda, also known as the Child. They're heading off to Trask, and they get there. It's a little bit of a clunky ride as they are landing down on the planet.
like crash land right into the water and have to be lifted out.
Yeah, which was also super cool. You noticed something about after they crashed in the water, what was the structure?
Oh, yes.
The crane.
The crane was an AT-AT modified without the head so that they could lift them up out. So I thought that was
so cool. That was a nice little touch.
Yeah.
Yeah, using like leftover scrap from the Empire to do all those society type things. One of the things that I noticed that isn't necessarily story based was when Mando was like skyrocketing to the ground. he was trying to turn on his engines multiple times, and the noise that they used for his engines to try to turn back on was the same noise when Anakin had his pod racer go dead in the middle of the race and he had to switch it over. The little like clicking slash I don't know what you'd call that. Like it was like trying to start your car essentially. It was that kind of clicking rhythm.
Like turning over.
Yeah, it was like that. His engines were turning over, and I thought it was kind of interesting hearing the different noises from past stuff. And there's a little more of that as we go on. I'll touch on those as we get there.
Very cool.
Yeah, and then you noticed something about these people. You had asked me a question of
are they all General Akbar?
I thought that too.
Yeah, so we kind of thought, at least I was confused for a second. I actually had to double take. I was like, is this Mon Calamari? I thought we were going to Trask. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, I liked and I noticed that this episode picks up immediately where the last episode left off, in similar fashion to what episode 2 did.
Mm-hmm.
And I did notice the crane. I thought that was cool. And I think it's really cool that in this show we're exploring different looking planets.
Yeah.
We're getting away from either a planet that's either sand, ice, or fire or water, something like that. We have a more like industrial, port town, things like that. So I thought that was really cool. I also thought it was touching when Frog Lady met her frog husband. I thought that was sweet. That gave me the feels.
Yeah.
Then what's that?
All the feels.
All the feels. And then when they went into the tavern, I was waiting for somebody to say it's a trap, but obviously that didn't happen. Another small detail, and this might be weird to say, but when the face hugger got on Baby Yoda's face and Mando went to like stab it, it didn't look like his knife actually made contact with the creature before it fell off.
I noticed it looked kind of weird because I'm thinking, it's on Baby Yoda's face. I'm like, how is he stabbing just the squid and not Baby Yoda? And it didn't get stuck to his knife either.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was
I know he has like a I don't know what it's called, like the vibration knives or whatever. Yeah, okay. So I don't know if that has anything to do with it, but just something I noticed.
Right.
Interesting face hugger too, because I keep telling her, what's the next Alien reference that we're going to get in the show? Because they had all the eggs and sprouting out in episode 2, and now we got the face hugger. What's next?
Right. So yeah, I think as far as the intro goes, I think those are my observations that I noticed.
So you had said in your initial thoughts the wrestler is that the character that had the hood? And
yes.
She was watching Mando walk to the tavern?
Yes. Yep.
Ah, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I did not know that was a wrestler.
Me either.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I knew about is it Gina from season 1? I don't remember her name.
I don't remember her name.
Oh yeah, the shock trooper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew she was a wrestler, and it kind of showed when they had their tussle. But
yeah. Well, I think she's MMA.
Oh.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm talking like professional wrestling, like WWE.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the theatrical stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So we got to the tavern, and then he was told that there's these people in there that know where people that look like him, as he keeps asking people, they know where they're at, and so they say, hey, we can take you there if you want, and he agrees to go with them.
They look very much like Davy Jones from Pirates of the Caribbean, with a tentacle beard.
Which is also a funny callback to the whole Mon Calamari thing, because in the Clone Wars, the Mon Calamari, and unfortunately I don't know the race of the dude that they took on the ship, the pirates, so to speak. they had problems in the Clone Wars. Like one was on the Separatist, one was with the Republic, and they duked it out quite a bit. It was interesting to see them in one spot for this episode.
Not knowing that background, I thought it was pretty fitting because they're both amphibious, you know, like they're both water creatures.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so they take off on this boat, and some things happen that a little unexpected. I did not expect it to happen.
Nope. Did you?
No. I had mentioned before that I have not seen Clone Wars or Rebels, but I recognize the armor. And when they showed up, I'm like, oh dang, it's about to go down. So,
did you see them hockey pucking the child into the beast's mouth?
Yeah, that made me really mad. I'm full in on the cute Baby Yoda train, and whenever something is done to that poor child, I get physically angry. Like I'm all like, how dare you? You know, like at the end of season 1 where the stormtroopers were like punching it. Like I got mad. So yeah, that was riled me up a little bit.
I think it's really interesting how we're kind of almost starting to see Mando take on that dad figure. Like in the last episode when he was working on the ship and, hey, why don't you make yourself useful and come help me? I feel like that's a really dad thing to say. And then, later on in this episode, we see him tell Baby Yoda to, when he's hanging out with the frog people, like, mind your manners and basically be a good boy, you know, and these the tentacle beard people, I don't know what they're called. Do you?
I don't remember their race.
But they're like, why don't you watch us feed this creature? It'll be real fun for the kid, and kind of like a parent bonding moment kind of thing. And so they almost trap him into that, and that's right when they kick the baby, the carrier that Baby Yoda's in, into the pit where this creature eats him.
I'm glad I'm smart enough to hit the button.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because when we see him crunched.
Yeah, that's a very astute observation. I like that, what you said there. I have a friend who has just started watching. He binge watched season 1, but he's waiting for all of season 2 to come out before he binges it. And he likes Star Wars, but he's more of a casual fan. And he asked me why exactly did Mando go from like this hardened warrior to now like this father figure, and I explained to him that at least my interpretation is that, you know, Mando had a rough upbringing, and I think he sees his relationship with the child similar to his relationship with the Mandalorians who saved him, and then on top of that, he's just cute. And then I also said that an older warrior type taking care of a young child is a classic Western trope. So I think that's another reason. But but I think that goes along with exactly what you said, that he's becoming more of a traditional father figure. So yeah, I like what you said there. I also want to point out, if I can, when they were on the boat, the special effects, at least in the show in general, but on that part of the episode specifically, blew me away, because I don't know if, did you see that docu-series?
I did.
Like the behind the scenes? You did?
Mm-hmm.
So what they're doing with like their stagecraft technology, which first of all, when I saw that episode, it blew my mind. I'm like, this is crazy. This is like game-changing stuff. So the fact that they can emulate a ship on water with that stagecraft technology, like, just, it blew my mind. I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's crazy what they're doing, and apparently it's cheaper to do it that way, because that's
what
they did for the Lion King or something. That's why it looks a lot like it. All those shots.
And that is, I feel like that's such a Star Wars move too, because I feel like tradition, at least the original trilogy. Well, I guess the prequel trilogy as well. But they really push the envelope on production technology, and I think it's so cool that this show is carrying on that Star Wars tradition.
Yeah, especially since episode 3 was basically filmed in a green screen room.
Yeah.
Um, One thing I want to piggyback off what you said, you had mentioned that, Mando is kind of reflecting on how he was brought up. And once you said that, it kind of clicked to me. Like, we saw in the flashback that Mando as a child was like in this place all by himself, and the Mandalorians, picked him up and then took him on their way. Well, it was the same thing for Mando. He found this random child somewhere, and he picked him up and took him on his way. So I think it's kind of like that Star Wars poetic part of it.
Yep.
That's why he's starting to realize, what he went through, he's going to give to the child.
Right.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
So after Mando goes in to try to save the child, a bunch of Mandalorians show up and they hop up onto the boat. And myself, I was paying attention to the paint on their suits. I was trying to pick apart, okay, which one of the people from the Clone Wars or Rebels is going to be in this? And I actually recognized Bo-Katan's. I didn't remember her name at first, but I did recognize her armor. I was waiting for Sabine, which is a bit more colorful, but we haven't seen her armor yet. But yeah, so these, I think there was three of them showed up on the boat and saved Mando and the child.
That's when we see his pod that he sleeps in, if you will, just all crushed. And I was really waiting for him to not be in there or something to be wrong because of just how badly it got crushed. I was surprised that he was unharmed at all.
I thought that when they finally got Baby Yoda out of there, I thought almost Baby Yoda was going to use his force powers or something to kill the monster.
Yeah.
And it was going to be one of those moments he was just going to come out like everything was fine. I crushed this thing's windpipe. Here we go. That's what I thought was going to happen. But
yeah, we haven't seen him use his force power yet this season.
No. Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting because he used it a couple of times in season 1, I think.
Yeah, I think at least twice.
So I believe the Bo-Katan approaches Mando, and they're basically going back and forth on what they both need. He's looking for more people to look like him. He finally found some, and he wants to find more. But the thing is, he mentions that he's, trying to take the child to its kind, like the Jedi. And one of the things that's way back in some of the Star Wars lore is that Mandalorians for the longest time did not like the Jedi. They had wars, and there's some hardcore Mandalorians, and there's some that aren't. We kind of see she takes off her helmet, all of them do, and that strikes Mando oh my God, what are you doing? So we can definitely see there's a different dynamic between the groups. And she even pointed out you're from the Watch, we're not, so that's why we don't do what you do, kind of a thing. But she has her own motives and she has her own mission, which drives us into the rest of the episode.
I thought that was really cool. I didn't watch the shows. So I didn't expect a split in Mandalorian ideology. I guess I just assumed that all Mandalorians were like Mando. So when she started saying oh, you're from this group and we're this, I was like, oh, okay. So, it makes things more complicated and more interesting.
I just like that his initial reaction when he sees that is, where'd you get that armor? Just like the last episode,
yeah.
You're not what you're supposed to be. Where'd you get that?
Mm-hmm. And I think it's interesting that we could figure out what he was feeling as he had a helmet on. We knew instantly what he was feeling, so that's a testament to the creators there.
Yep.
So Bo-Katan, she has this mission. She wants to basically raid this Imperial fleet ship. I don't know about fleet, but basically it's another task for Mando to do as he progresses his story.
So he drops off the child with Frog Lady and Frog Man, I guess you'd call him. And so you see him just looking at those eggs again, and all of a sudden we see one pop open and a little tadpole come out, which was really cute. It almost
Maybe you're hungry though. You want to eat that thing.
it looked like a nice snack, I guess, but no, it almost looked like to me that there were more eggs in there right now than there were at the end of the last episode. Because I remember last episode it was like he'd ate probably 2/3 of the ones that were in there, and so there really weren't that many left. So it looked like there were more in there this time. I don't know. But yeah, so that's when he leaves him there, and he's telling him to mind his manners and basically be a good boy while he goes off and does something. And the frog people, they don't care that Baby Yoda's there. They're just like, well, we can't understand them, but we know they're fine. They don't care.
I'm surprised Frog Lady wasn't like, I know what you did.
Does she know?
I don't know if she does.
Maybe not. I mean, he like kind of alluded to wanting one when she was sunbathing in the little spring, but
that's when she was looking at Mando, right?
But maybe she doesn't know.
I think he did it all in secret because he knew he wasn't supposed to, but he wanted him anyway.
Like a child does.
Lady, you have a baby eater with you.
But yeah, so that's when he goes and joins these other Mandalorian people, if you will, to go and raid this ship. And then there's that classic invasion of the ship, like just take them out, kill them all for the stormtroopers. There's a little bit of a kind of an interesting scene where the captain of the ship, there's two pilots and then the captain, I guess, if you will. Where are they right now, right? And so they find out that they're in the cargo hold area, where they can control the cargo hold area, and there's kind of like and then all of a sudden we see them, they must have hit some sort of button or something, and the rest of the stormtroopers that were in the cargo bay just get sucked out of the ship because the Mandalorian let them loose. So that was an easy win with them.
Yeah, there's a lot of good humor in this episode compared to recent ones. There are a couple moments that made me laugh out loud.
Yeah.
I don't know if you felt this way, but I kind of felt like they really, really made the stormtroopers appear dumb in this episode. Like they kept reiterating that they can't hit the broadside of a bantha, but then at the same time, it just seemed like as soon as they went to raid the ship, the stormtroopers didn't know what they were doing. Like they looked like they were like, oh look, there's a person, and then they were just immediately killed all over the place. And that could allude to Mando's being, so cool and awesome, but at the same time, I feel like the stormtroopers really were degraded in this episode.
I think they just played off the fact of everybody knows stormtroopers can't hit anything.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think stormtroopers were ever portrayed as like super organized, high level fighting force.
Until you play the video games on hard.
But something else, I mean, these are like the fatal last days of the Empire at this point. So, I mean, they might not have the most elite stormtroopers left in their ranks.
And they could have just been recruiting random people.
Yeah. It did make me feel good and nostalgic when I saw the classic stormtrooper uniform.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen that in a while, so and the Imperial officer uniforms too. But I thought that was cool. That made me smile.
Yeah, and then once they took over the cargo area, we kind of learned a little bit more about the Mandalorians because we are learning that Bo-Katan is in search of something that the Empire has, and we find out that it's the Darksaber. That's what she wants. And the reason why she wants the Darksaber is because whoever has that is essentially the one that rules Mandalore. The person that's in charge has the Darksaber. That's the way it is there. And she knows that the Empire has it, so she's trying to track it and where it's going. But the Empire kind of knows that's probably what they're there for. And we kind of learned something new about the Empire. We learned that basically they don't want it to be compromised. So if anything, all hail the Empire, take the ship into the water. We see the commander kill his troops and take the ship and try to nosedive into the water.
So I'm gonna backtrack just a tiny bit from there. That there was a really cool back and forth of Bo-Katan basically saying, all right, let's take down the ship. And Mando's like, wait a second, we were just here for the cargo, I thought. I'm not taking down the ship with you. And I don't know that it's the exact words, but she basically says, he says, that's not the deal that we agreed to. You're altering the deal. And I wanted so bad for her to say, pray don't alter it any further, just like Darth Vader. But of course, it's not what she says, because she's her own person. And that's all. But that's when they go and storm the rest of the ship and take over the pilot area.
There's another thing that we discussed earlier, because Sarah was actually mentioning to me, she was like, she doesn't seem like Mando. Like, why is she saying this is the way to him all the time when clearly she's not like one of the Watch? It seems like it's Mando's thing to say from his group and not necessarily her. And we watched the episode again today, and we kind of got the idea that maybe she's mocking him in a way at first, and then as they progress, they're starting to become a little more friendly. So she's trying to play into his culture a little bit.
Yeah, because the first time he says it to her in this episode is when they're going back and forth on why aren't you wearing your helmet, and him saying, you should keep it on at all times because this is the way. And so then later she says this is the way to him. It almost seems like she's mocking him. And she actually says it 2 times in this episode. And the second time, which is, I don't know, maybe 5-10 minutes later in the episode, is when it almost seems like she's saying it as kind of a term of endearment, like, we have an understanding now. And she's not really mocking him anymore, just trying to more or less say, like, we're on the same page.
Did you kind of get that vibe?
Yeah. I think it was more of kind of a respect thing. She did start out saying it kind of mockingly and then kind of came around. I also kind of thought, my immediate thought was, you kind of see a dichotomy of people who, like, when it comes to like organized religions, people who are a little bit more traditional, like Mando, and people that practice religion more, I don't want to say casually, but just aren't as strict. And she has now seen a more traditional way of being a Mandalorian. And she's just kind of like, okay, like I'm not fully embracing it, but like I see what you're doing here. I respect it.
Right.
So yeah. And I also want to add, if I could, the choreography of the shootouts on the ship were very entertaining, and I think were very, very well done. Just the way the camera was working and like following them down the hallways, and they were all moving in an organized group very effectively and efficiently. I thought that was just really cool to watch, and I appreciated it.
Yeah, for sure.
To go along with that, I actually thought it was pretty interesting to see like how Mando really used his armor to its potential, like when he was basically almost sacrificing himself because he knew the blast would just bounce off of him, and he made his way down there to throw the detonators to blow up the stormtroopers. It was kind of cool to see that. But to a point, they said that they couldn't hit the broadside of a bantha, but they were sure hitting him a few times.
Oh, yeah, everywhere.
Yeah. Thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
We also got to see another character from season 1 in the interaction with the Empire. We got to see Moff Gideon come back. I was super excited to see that. Ever since I found out like he was the hierarchy basically of the Empire from season 1, I was like, I want more of that guy because I'm Team Empire. So yeah, I really enjoyed seeing him back into the show. I really hope he has a lot to do with the rest of it.
Yeah, it was a really nice piece of connective tissue, if you will, to remind you like, oh, hey, like this guy's still out there and doing stuff. So, don't forget about him.
Yeah. And he's the one that possesses the dark saber. So
Mhm.
maybe there's going to be, some altercation between him and Bo-Katan at some point. That'd be pretty cool.
But the way that or the pace that this show goes, we'll probably see that in like season 5 or something.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah.
That's not a ding on the show. It's just
the truth. Yeah. Yeah, we're getting that vibe to a point, I think, unfortunately, but at the same time, more Star Wars is good.
Well, I think they might be having a little bit of a hard time as far as, Star Wars is traditionally movies, right? That's what it started out as. And so to try to move it into a show, I almost wonder if they're kind of struggling with what kind of pacing to put it at, because, they haven't done a live action show yet, right? This is the first live action show.
I believe.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I think they might just be trying to figure out where they're supposed to be as far as episode pacing and season pacing. And, this isn't going to be a 2-hour movie. This is going to be a, say, 6-hour season. And how do you break that up?
And if it stays at the same time frame, right? I mean, it's going less and less and less.
Yeah, the episodes do keep getting shorter, which I think is a little bit disappointing, because I think when we first started, they were like 40, 45-minute episodes, somewhere in there. And this last one was, what, like 25?
29.
29,
I
so
counted.
a half hour. Which is shorter than the last one, which was shorter than the last one. So, it's
and it went by really quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to its credit, it added a lot of story, so I felt like that was a good plus to it.
Yeah.
Well, I watched this video of a movie pundit that I follow, and he reviewed the episode, and he said something that really stuck with me. He said what he interprets as going on in terms of the pacing is Jon Favreau kind of has the philosophy of the journey is the story, not the story is the journey, which would be more of like a movie style. The journey is the story. So Mando actually going out and seeking information and doing these, I call them doing side quests for people. Like that's all part of his journey, and that we're kind of documenting, if you will. So yeah, but it definitely took me a little bit to realize it from season 1. Because the first episode you have the child and things like that, and you go, oh, okay, so the whole season's going to be about the child and whatever. But then you had just like individual side quest stuff for the next handful of episodes until like the last few, and it took me a little bit to realize, like, okay, like they're taking their time, they're doing the Western thing. Season 1, each episode seemed to mimic a certain type of Western movie, I noticed. So yeah, I noticed that they weren't kind of doing the traditional TV style. But yeah, that was just a line that really stuck with me, and I think that's a good way of thinking about how this show is going.
Yeah, I think I could appreciate that. What was the channel, so you can give a shout out for the credit?
John Campea. The YouTube channel is John Campea. Yeah, I've been watching his stuff for a long time. So
nice.
Yeah.
So I think we were at the part where they were diving down to the water. They do make their way into the cockpit. The Mandalorians do. They fight their way through. And then we see something else that I thought was super interesting, like that added to it. To a point, I think we still don't know how he did it, but how the officer like committed suicide. Did he have like, I thought maybe an implant for a tooth that had some sort of thing, but I don't know. What were your guys' thoughts?
I'm going to be honest with you. I might have to watch that part again. I didn't quite catch that.
Yeah, because his teeth did like a little zap thing and he died.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. It might have just been, he killed himself, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's when he said, "Long live the Empire," and then he shot the 2 pilots, and then that's when he's trying to crash land into the water because he wants the ship to go down so that the Mandalorian can't get it. And then, of course, they make their way in there, and she says, you tell me where the thing that I want is, referring to the Darksaber, and he basically says, well, if you don't kill me, then the Empire will. So he just straight up kills himself, so he doesn't give any information away. But how he does it, I still am not really sure. I almost feel like he maybe pressed a button or something, but it's like, where would you have this panic button? Like on your glove or something? That seems really like...
Does it have a safety?
You'd accidentally bump it someday or something, like it seems really, really dangerous to just have wherever this thing was. How did you trigger it?
It might have been like a cyanide pill, like you said, kind of like an implant maybe that he like bit down on. That, I don't know, just an idea.
It looked like he bit down, quite honestly, when he did it, because like he made it clear that he was doing something with his mouth. So that's why I thought maybe it was like an implant or something. But
because that is the only spot that I think we saw the lightning or whatever it was.
Yeah,
maybe it was a force lightning chip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Had the Emperor making those one by one.
Yeah.
But then let's see. So they take over the ship. They save the day. They pull up on it, and the ship is good to go. They have all the cargo, and then we learn something that kind of pushes us in the direction of the next few episodes. We learn that Bo-Katan knows where Ahsoka Tano is, and I forget the name of the planet. It sounded kind of random to me. Any of you remember the name of the planet?
I don't.
It was a random planet.
That's where he's going next. We all know it.
He's probably going there next.
I don't know why he wouldn't.
Yeah. We'll see.
If the ship doesn't make it.
Yeah. I wonder if by the end of the season, if he's going to like fully repair it or if he's going to get a different ship.
I don't know. That thing is taking a beating.
Yeah. It's barely making it. One of the things that we had talked about as he was leaving, because so he picks up a child, and they go to leave the planet because they need to find, Ahsoka. And he finds his ship, and he had asked someone earlier in the episode to fix it up, and he's like, this is all you could do. And I thought when he touched the pad, something cool was going to happen, like some new gadget was going to come out of the ship, or
some cool lighting or something.
Yeah, but
football.
Yeah, have a dance party. But it was just him basically signing off on the fact that, he did the job. I was a little disappointed in it, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Did you guys have any other thoughts about the episode? Because that's pretty much where it ended up.
Just one last thing that just popped in my head. I think they did a really good job of translating the animated characters to live action.
Yes.
Because that is not easy to do. And even for somebody like me who hasn't watched the show, I have a passing familiarity with some of the major points, but I haven't actually seen it. And as soon as those Mandalorians dropped down, I immediately went, oh, that one looks familiar. I don't know a ton about it, but that looks familiar. And you can recognize that right away. So I think that's a job well done.
Something that's really cool about that point is she is the one that plays Bo-Katan in the Clone Wars. So it's like they animated what she looked like to be in the show. So then when she went to live action, there was really no transition. It was
right.
Go be you.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool how earlier in the episode, I think this was right before they were telling Mando what the job was, right? And so they're all sitting down to dinner, basically, and the child sees one of the other Mandalorian with this bowl of soup, and she's like slurping up one of the tentacles from one of the squids or something. It was gross because you could see it was alive, and that's just not my thing.
That was Sasha Banks.
Yeah. Oh, yep. Gross.
She better eat that when she goes to do her wrestling thing. That'd be pretty cool callback.
But yep, so she eats the squid tentacle thing, and it's like slurping all over her face while she's eating it like a spaghetti noodle. And Baby Yoda thinks that it's just like, he just looks at it like it's delicious because he likes those weird things like little frogs and whatnot. And at the end of the episode, that's when we see one of them almost try to attack him, but of course Mando kills it before he has the chance to hurt the child. And then they just show him slurping that one little tentacle just like Sasha Banks did. So I thought that was kind of neat that they did the callback to when he saw her eat one, and now he's getting to eat one because he likes the most disgusting little creatures that he can find.
One of the things that, like, outside of the episode that I thought was mind-boggling was when I look at Bo-Katan compared to the Clone Wars to now, I tried to figure out the age gap between the two. And way back when, she seemed to be like maybe 10 to 15 years younger than Obi-Wan. And I tried to put that in perspective, and I thought, okay, well, Obi-Wan looked like an old hermit in episode 4, and there's not, it's about 10 to 15 years between that time and where we're at now, roughly. So it really made me question, like, do the Mandalorians age differently? Are they pure human? Like, is there something going on? Because I felt like, to a point, she aged like fine wine and he aged like milk. It was very, very bad. Like, they look drastically different for the same amount of time period.
Can you explain the milk thing? Because that's a new one to me.
Yeah, so like when Obi-Wan aged, he aged like he was super old in episode 4. Whereas the same time frame, Bo-Katan still looks as if she's maybe, 30 or 40. She doesn't show any gray hairs, doesn't look like a old lady. And she's still obviously good to go for combat and everything. I know Obi-Wan was too, but it seems kind of like a odd continuity with the age.
I gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. Like Obi-Wan went from like middle age to Gandalf between the Clone Wars and New Hope, and she went from like relatively young to like still relatively young.
Yeah.
Way after Return of the Jedi. Okay, yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. Because your age is your age, so she's definitely up there, maybe in her late 40s or 50s areas, I guess. And if that's the truth, then that means Obi-Wan would have been somewhere in there. And if that's not the case, there's no continuity.
Yeah, just judging by looks, I feel like she looks like she could be in her 50s. I know there's a lot of people, especially actresses and whatnot, that are in their 50s and they look like, still pretty smooth skin, maybe just a little wrinkle here or there, nothing really that major, no gray hair and stuff.
Lots of plastic surgery.
If I had to take a stab at her age, I'd say probably early 50s, maybe. But that still doesn't really coincide with Obi-Wan looking as old as he does, because he doesn't really look like 50s. He looks like 60s or 70s, with all the gray hair and just the way he talks. And he does still battle, but not like, it's not like he's whooping somebody, he's just doing what he can.
Elegantly.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't want to take too much away from the episode with that, but it did strike me like it being
interesting observation. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go into final thoughts and ratings. Tony, what are your final thoughts about this episode?
I loved it. I think it was a really good, solid, entertaining episode of television. It's competently made. No really significant issues with it. I did notice that Bryce Dallas Howard directed this episode, and she also directed one of my favorite episodes of season 1. I call it the Seven Samurai episode. or the Magnificent Seven, because that's the Western it's kind of based off of, where they trained all the villagers. Yeah, she seems to be doing really well. Her work is getting better and better. I would give it a 9 out of 10. The only thing I would say, and it's a real personal nitpicky thing, just because I didn't want to say 10 out of 10, is that when the episode ended, I feel like mentally I was just getting started. Like the ball was just starting to roll down the hill, and then it stopped, which makes me want to watch the next one, which I think was the point. But other than that, real minor nitpicky thing, 9 out of 10, loved it.
They wanted to make sure that you subscribe for another month.
Right.
And what were your thoughts and rating?
So I did enjoy it. I'm getting a little bit tired of the same formula. Hey, can you help me? Yes, but only if you do a favor for me first, and then it's a battle, and then they, of course they complete whatever the mission is, and then it's, okay, well, you need to go see this person next. I feel like that's getting a little too repetitive. So that kind of took away some of it for me, but I did like seeing some new species. I liked seeing the tentacle beard dude. I liked seeing all the General Akbar people. The tentacle monster that ate the child that kind of looked like the spider in terms of the mouth inside of a mouth. I thought that was kind of interesting. Same creature but different. I did like that it was a new planet. So I think overall, with all things considered, and the fact that it was an even shorter episode from last time, I think that kind of took away from it a little bit for me too, just because I want more action all at once. I don't necessarily, or story. I don't necessarily want just like a tiny little taste. I want some meat. Like I want the steak of the dinner, But it did advance the story, so that was nice compared to last week. And I think because of it advancing the story compared to last week, I'm going to end it probably at an 8. Last week I gave a 7. This week I think I'm going to give an 8. Yeah, with all things considered, I think that's where I'm at.
Nice. And then my last thoughts about it, and I forgot 2 things I was supposed to say earlier, so I'll say them real quick. Sound effects. When Bo-Katan took off her helmet, it was the same noise as Vader's helmet when it comes on and off. And then when the Empire was throwing the thrusters on their ship, that was the same thrusters as Anakin's pod racer as well. So he actually had 2 cameos in there from his pod racer.
Also, real quick with the sounds, the alarm in the Imperial ship. That's another thing that's nostalgic for me to hear the.
Oh yeah.
I loved it. That makes me smile whenever I hear that.
But yeah, so moving on to my final thoughts. I really liked it. I thought it was really cool. I'll be honest, when I saw that the runtime was significantly shorter, it rubbed me the wrong way at first. But as I watched the episode and I got what I wanted as far as pushing the story along, and we started to connect some dots to season 1 with the Darksaber and Moff Gideon. Again, I'm giddy for Moff Gideon. I was really happy to see a lot of that stuff and the Empire to come into play, the broken Empire. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I'm right along the lines of the 8 out of 10 as well. It was close to a 9. I felt like if I got a little bit more backstory as far as the Mandalorian and why they want the Darksaber, maybe that's coming. But I feel like for the 2 of you, where you hadn't seen the Clone Wars, that wasn't emphasized enough. Like, what is this Darksaber? Why do you care about it? We saw it in season 1, but we really got nothing as to what's important about it, because it was like literally the last shot of the season.
Yeah, I forgot I was going to mention that in my final thoughts too. Just as somebody who hasn't seen Rebels or the Clone Wars, like, who is Bo-Katan? I only know because he's told me, because I haven't seen those.
All right, so it looked like we have a 9, 8, and 8 for the final thoughts of the Mandalorian season 2, episode 3. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel by hitting that subscribe button. Drop us a like if you liked the video, and drop us a comment letting us know what your thoughts were on the episode. And then, as always, everybody, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.